Tone in Halo has always been a ginormous factor as to how the game manages to feel fresh, going from fighting your way through a genocidal alien empire to barely surviving a parasitic infestation is what made Halo's missions feel unique. It creates a juxtaposition that allows you to feel various emotions from exhilaration to fear. But in recent titles, Halo has struggled to capture this feeling in my personal opinion. By no means am I saying that Reach, 4 and 5 don't manage to have things right in their own regard, but throughout each playthrough I see this gap that needs to be filled. So it got me thinking about the Flood after I started playing Awakening the Nightmare again. I think there's a real reality that the Flood can be back in Halo Infinite, so stay tuned for more.
Ultimate Halo.
Hey up lads, Fletch here from Ultimate Halo and thank you so much for tuning in. We are so close to that 80,000 mark, so a like and a subscribe not only helps the channel grow, but also means a lot to me as well. And also I want to know in the comment section down below, I'd like to know how it sort of balances out in terms of opinion. Do you want the Flood in Halo Infinite? Let me know your thoughts and the reasons why in the comments, and let's get on with the video. Now in this video I'm going to cover 3 key points which could potentially lead to our answer. The first is Zeta Halo. We're going to discuss the lore behind it and why it's possible it's a hotspot for the Flood. The second is a theory I've devised resulting in the Banished releasing the Flood on purpose to gain power in the galaxy. Then lastly why Cortana has a big role to play in all of this. Zeta Halo, otherwise known as Installation 07, has strongly been hinted at in many ways to be the ring we see Chief gazing upon in the distance with the Infinite Reveal trailer and the Discover Hope trailer. It is pretty much a given now that it's going to be at least one of the settings for the game, which I welcome with open arms because this ring has a wealth of history which we are going to cover to a certain degree for now so we can have a basis for my theory. Now Installation 07 was initially part of the original Halo array, which were much larger than the rings we know today. The rings we currently know, and we've been on in the past, are 10,000 kilometers in diameter, whereas this ring was initially 30,000 kilometers before being reduced as a result of heavy damage. Instead of being built at the lesser arc known as Installation 00, which we see in Halo 3 and Wars 2, it was built at the greater arc. Now the history of the ring runs deep and we're not going to cover the entirety of it here, but basically it was a ring used to home some of the biological specimens from across the galaxy to conserve life. As we suspected by the cave engravings in the first trailers, humans were part of life on the planet, and on the ring there were some despicable experiments made on humans in hopes to find a cure for the Flood. The reasoning for this was because the Foreigners noticed that humans didn't seem to get infected, but the true reason behind this was due to the Flood only carrying out coordinated attacks on Foreigners, as per their plan at the time. Humans would also refer to the testing facilities that they went to as the Palaces of Pain, which they were all too aware of in their primitive state at the time, and they knew that something was going on, but unfortunately for them they didn't know exactly what it was. To this very day, I would say it's a point of debate whether or not the Flood exists on the ring, and we now know that when the Halo array is activated, the life on the rings are impacted much like everywhere else in the ring's radius. We do know at some stage there were numerous proto-grave mines on Zeta Halo, and at some points only sent out 300 scientists to the ring in 2555, and there was very little evidence of any signs that the Flood as well as any monitors were existent. Another key difference for Zeta Halo was that it had multiple monitors. Although little was known about them, it's quite possible that they are dormant, keeping quiet, or have wandered somewhere else into the galaxy. After all, we know that some of them could potentially be prone to boredom, much like Guilty Spark was in the Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary terminals. It was also suggested by particular scientists that there could be a potential awareness of previous encounters with humanity and the Sangheili on previous rings, and that might be an intentional silence from the monitors unless contact was absolutely necessary to be made on the ring. Eventually, they did manage to send probes to scan the topography in hopes to find the activation index for the ring. Although even though they are very aware of the structure of the ring at this point, it doesn't mean that there aren't necessarily facilities they might not know about that do house the Flood. We are aware of many facilities on various other rings that contain the Flood and closely monitor them, so why would Zeta Halo be any different? Well, I don't think it is, and this is where my theory starts to begin. In Halo Wars 2, set in 2559, we got our first look at the Banished. The Banished are a splinter group of the Covenant led by the brute Atriox. Even though we don't know much about their motives, we do know it's clear that they want power and control within the galaxy. In Halo Wars 2 we found ourselves on the Ark, and Atriox has shown a deep interest in Forerunner technology. Then the synopsis of the book Halo Shadows of Reach that is releasing September this year says the following. Reach has been invaded by a powerful and ruthless faction who have their own reasons for being there. Establishing themselves as a vicious occupying force on the devastated planet, this enemy will soon transform the Blue Team's simple retrieval operation into a full-blown crisis. Now, I have said this before, but the adjectives used in this paragraph are clearly referring to the Banished. It simply cannot be anybody else, and Reach is also known to having a lot of Forerunner artifacts, as we've seen previously in the past. So why exactly is all of this relevant? Currently, Cortana is in a position where she's policing the galaxy with the Guardians, and yes, this immediately puts a threat to the power and control that the Banished are trying to gain and maintain. At this point, we do now know through various Mega Bloks leaks, which I don't really want to show in this video because they are issuing copyright strikes for, but trust me, the Banished are 100% in Halo Infinite. But why exactly would they want to be on Zeta Halo? Of course, there are artifacts there and they will be on the hunt for these, but it's also my theory that it might run just a little bit deeper than this, and my theory could be a little bit out there. But I think it's possible that Atriox could possibly be after releasing the Flood as a last resort of combating Cortana. Emphasis on last resort, because nobody wants to do such a thing. So look at it this way, I don't think that it's reasonable for the Banished to take on the Created, Humanity and other Covenant factions at the same time, so what exactly can he do? Release the Flood, distract Cortana and spread her forces thin because she's trying to assume the mantle of responsibility to enforce peace within the galaxy, and if you release the Flood, they are going to be her #1 threat. We can also see from the book Halo Bad Blood that the Guardians are keeping a watchful eye over major settlements, and if the Flood are to be released on a big enough scale, I would say that it would be a waste of her resources to have them there, and I think it would be centralised to focus on the Flood so she can take them out, which would then in turn allow humanity to start a rebellion, take back what is rightfully their own, and aid the campaign to take Cortana and the rest of the AIs in forcing this so-called peace down. This then means that the Banished can focus on completing their own contracts, push for their plan to gain power, and in theory you can actually remove the focus of the story away from the Created, because I know not a lot of people like that story idea, because we've also seen signs of Chief being prepared to take Cortana out with his device Chip. So that in theory could be Chief's personal story, whilst the greater story arc concerning all of the factions of the galaxy rages on for the Chief to navigate. I think it would give the story a lot of depth. You can have your own personal elements, your grandiose moments, and the change in tonal shift that I've been hoping for in a Halo game will hopefully become a reality.
Fate had us meet as foes, but this ring will make us brothers.
Now, I do appreciate on the other hand, Atriox is very aware of the Flood and their dangerous impact, as well as how quickly the parasite spreads, as well as his caution to Pavium and Voridus in Halo Wars 2. I would hope that this would be a good reasoning for the Flood to come back, and in the past there have always been the scenario of they've been released by accident, but having them released on purpose could be an interesting dynamic for the story, and then we can finally get some tonal shift of the game, some level of fear and horror that we've been missing for all this time. But I do want to know what you guys think. Do you think it's a reasonable theory, and do you want the Flood back in Halo Infinite? Let me know in the comments section down below. Once again, my name is Jack Fletcher, and I will see you next time on the one and the only Ultimate Halo.
Prepare yourselves.
Subscribe now more unfriggin' believable Halo content.